Good evening and welcome to the Sound Off Show. My name is Linda Kirker. I host the program. It's been a long time, folks. Maybe some would say too long, but I'm not quite there yet. 15 years and still kicking. I just wanted to, while I'm thinking of it, offer a message to you moms out there, wishing you a happy Mother's Day this next weekend. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'm sure you deserve it. So happy Mom's Day. And with that, instead of having a dialogue, I'm going to, excuse me, how to open up a show in one easy lesson. You have to have a sense of humor, folks, especially these days, with the virus and everything that's going on. So excuse me for that. If it happens again, my apologies. Every once in a while. My guest tonight is a friend, and he is a representative in the Vermont legislature. His name is Brian Savage. Brian represents the towns of Swanton and Sheldon, and he is in his 13th year representing us in the legislature, and we're darn lucky to have him. Brian serves on the Transportation Committee these days, and he's going to tell us about a number of things that are transpiring in the Vermont House of Representatives and in the Senate to some degree. So, Brian, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
It's been a while.
It has been. I was trying to think of that. I think it was before we went, it was after the election, but before we went into session, I thought.
I don't remember.
I don't know. It's been a while.
Yeah, but it's good to have you back, and we've just been chatting here for a few minutes, and it's amazing how much you know about all the things that are going on in the legislature. Well,
sometimes I don't, may not know it all.
Well, nobody knows it all.
It's, but there's a lot to keep track of course.
Oh, yeah, and so... what would you like to start with? We have the budget, we have pensions. Well,
what I would do is, first of all, give a little synopsis of where we are in the legislature at this point. The legislature, this was the start of the new biennium this year in January. And we, in our caucus, we went from 43 members of the Republicans caucus in the House to 46 members. We did gain 3 seats.
That's great.
But we still do not have a veto proof. I mean, we're still problems with it sustaining a veto. And for those who out there that do not know, we have 150 members of the House. In the Senate, we actually picked up a seat in the Senate. So there are now 8 senators, I believe, that are Republicans.
Something like that.
There's a total of 30.
We have work to do.
Well, a lot of work to do. And we have, this year, we have had 452 bills introduced so far in the House and 148 in the Senate.
Oh, my gosh.
That's down from last 2 years ago at the start of the last biennium. So it was not quite as...
That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. It was 2 years ago. It was just absolutely staggering.
It's ridiculous, really.
Right. So, you know, we've been meeting remotely all year. We actually finished the session last year, and remotely, we actually put in a lot of extra weeks in last year due to the pandemic, and being remote was certainly an adjustment. However, last year, everybody had at least the freshmen who had come in that biennium at least had some time being in the State House and knowing who's who and who are all the players. That takes almost a year of adjustment. This year, however, the freshmen came in and started remotely. And I have not met in person, other than those from Franklin County, any of the newly elected freshmen of our caucus.
Oh, that's a shame. You're all professional Zoomers, huh?
Yes. I mean, obviously, and my district mate is Representative Bob Norris. He's a freshman, so I met him. I mean, then we also have Representative Paul Martin. Certainly, anybody here in the county, obviously, we have met in person. But other people that I've talked to and Zoom, unfortunately, we have not met. Now, they are really at a very disadvantage. They don't know how the system works, who's who. They can't quickly find somebody in a hallway and ask them if they've got a question on process or procedures. So it's been very tough. They've done a very good job, and I tell them that. And for I don't know, I think this was probably the 4th biennium, once a week I hold a class for the freshmen.
Oh, great.
To teach them the rules of the House. We have established rules, and we do that this year by Zoom, of course, and that's done every Thursday at noon. Now, it gets a little bit more difficult as the session goes on because committees run overtime and everything else, but we get through the bulk of it. I've already told them, and I would hope that they would do this, the leadership of the House would see to it, because when we get into the actual building, hopefully next year, the process, the rules are the same. However, the actual logistics and how we conduct ourselves on the floor is considerably, they have not been exposed to that. So I said, I will train our caucus if they don't get it. But I would hope that all freshmen will have a couple of days of practice and know what's going on. The
procedures and so forth.
Right.
Yeah.
That you don't walk in front of the person who's speaking. And if you're, and you've been there, if you and I were in a debate, I don't look at you. I'm looking at the speaker, and I'm talking to the speaker, and everything goes through the speaker, and you do as well.
Yes.
So things of that nature is protocol that they're going to have to get a little lesson on. So I feel bad for them, but at the same time, I feel good that they've done a pretty good job. All things considered.
And you're there to guide them through.
We are. Everybody is. It's just that sometimes we're not as easy to get hold of because we're not in the cafeteria in the morning for breakfast or lunch, and it's and a lot of deals and a lot of discussion is held just we're in the cafeteria or in the legislative lounge.
Well, hopefully this coming session the next one will be a lot different.
I certainly hope so. This has not been easy.
No, I'm sure it hasn't.
So with that in mind, I would have thought that we should have kept the amount of work that we do to a minimum. You have your must-pass things that you've got to take care of, your must-pass
the priorities,
bills.
Yes.
The budget, the transportation bill, and the capital bill are must-pass bills. And then the other stuff, as it comes along, if there's something serious, you can take care of it. But they're treating this just like any other year we were there in person with a whole slew of all these bills coming across.
I know,
and
it
things
seems
that
outrageous.
Are you just can't devote a lot of time to. It's not the same being...
you can't go into depth and really make sure that everybody comprehends what it's all about.
Right. And the other thing is last year when we were doing this remotely, we use Zoom as the platform we use. We were limited in the time that we would be on Zoom, like a couple of hours, and but now we basically have unlimited time.
Oh my!
So there's nothing for us. For a few weeks ago, we started at 9 o'clock in the morning with committee meetings on Zoom. We went to the floor and finished the floor at 9:30 at night. And talking, and I'm sure some people out there have done this in their line of work on a computer for that length of time. It is not fun, nor is it healthy.
No, no, I wouldn't think so.
So what we have done...
Changed it?
No, we're still doing it.
I tried.
I wish we could. What we have done, we have had the budget. The budget that operates the state government. We're on a fiscal year, and that starts July 1st and runs till June 30th. The budget starts in the House. Has to start in the House, as well as any taxation. Has to start in the House. And the budget was the governor's budget that he put forward was well crafted. It had no increases, overall increases, had no tax increase, the House made some minor modifications to it. In the end, there was still no need to raise taxes.
Good.
In addition to the budget, of course, over the course of last year, we received almost over $1 billion from the federal government for pandemic assistance. And so that was thrown in and allocated in the budgetary process a few times. I think we reworked that budget 3 times.
Nice little bonus.
Yeah. So this year, what happened with last year was that money that we received in 2020 had to be spent by the end of December. So you try to spend that amount of money in a short period of time is difficult to make sure that you're doing it correctly.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Now we'll fast forward back to this year's budget. So we passed that budget. It heads over to the Senate, and that's where it presently is sitting at this time. In addition, we've received word we're going to get another $1 billion plus of aid, well, the Senate has already started spending that money by putting it in the budget, how they're going to spend it. First of all, we don't have a big timeline. We have 3 years to spend this money. We don't know for sure how we can spend it because the federal government will give us, just like they did the last time, they're going to give us rules on what we can or cannot spend it on. Mm-hmm. And if you spend it in the wrong place, they'll ask for it back. As a matter of fact, I learned this past year that Hurricane Irene took place in 2011, and federal money was received by the state. Some of it was spent not correctly, and the federal government is still working to get that money back.
No kidding.
It's being resolved, but
they're sure eager to spend, aren't they?
So we have to be very aware of that. So right now, the Senate is going to be working on this budget. They're going to pass it, their version. It's going to come back over to the House. In fact, we have it. It was assigned back to House Appropriations, and they're going to work on it and see where the differences are. Now, with all that said, we feel that, and the governor's position has been that, they shouldn't be spending this money on things that they're spending it on at this time.
Yeah.
And he doesn't quite know what they're doing. We don't, because we haven't had a chance to look at this. But this is a case of just throwing it out to the wind, and it's just ridiculous. Now, because of the money that we received last year, amazingly through a pandemic, in the general fund, we have like almost $300 million surplus. So we have a $300 million surplus. And then we have this new money that is going to be coming into the state of Vermont. So that's why the governor said there was no need for a tax increase, and he didn't put in for a tax increase. Well, they're trying to raise taxes just the same.
The Senate.
The Senate. And then there was a program that the federal government gave to small businesses called the PPP, which is the Payroll Protection Program. And that was to help businesses meet a payroll so they could remain open. It was a loan. However, if the business couldn't afford to pay the loan back, the federal government was going to forgive it. And the federal government encouraged, I don't believe they said that they didn't put it in so that they prohibited the states from taxing it, but they certainly encouraged and said that the states should not tax that. If it was forgiven, they should not tax that. Well, the state of Vermont is taxing that. And I mean, businesses that have survived don't have a lot of flex room, and where are they going to get the money to pay that back?
Right. What is wrong with these people? It's spend, 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 tax, tax, tax.
And so that's just one of the examples. We're going to have to wait and see as stuff comes out. But it's almost like an addiction to taxing. And
and look at all the people who have been out of work, businesses that have had to close down, and now they need to get back in action and recoup some money so that they can hire people, and the government wants to tax and spend. Where are their heads?
Now, the feeling may be they may be trying to, and without knowing what the rules are from the federal government, I don't know how they can do this, but the feeling is that, well, maybe they're moving money around so they know that maybe something isn't eligible. Is not eligible for the use of this federal money. Like some people said, why don't they put some toward the pension problem? They can't. That has not, in the prior program, that is not eligible.
Right.
So by maybe moving things around, maybe they like a shell game trying to move it so they can spend
take
money
from one place.
Right. That's possible, but but there's still no need to raise taxes. On the transportation, the House version was a pretty aggressive bill. There was a lot of money being spent for improvements. Our roads need plenty of improvement.
Oh, yes.
There's a lot of money in there for incentives to buy electric vehicles. And, I like...
no way.
I don't... we can talk about that, but but there was these incentive programs, even to buy an electric bicycle.
All I have to say about that, and I'll make it quick. If you want to buy an electric, whatever, vehicle, be my guest. But government, don't make me subsidize it. I have enough bills, and so do other people. We don't need to subsidize someone else's purchase just to make the climate people happy.
And but a good-sized portion of that came from the federal money. But it's mind-boggling how they get going about the electric vehicles. I mean, I think I don't have a problem. I like you. I don't have a problem with the electric vehicles, but they should be able to stand on their own.
Exactly. If you want an electric vehicle, be my guest.
Right. And and the other thing that more and more, once these come in, we need to find some way with which to replace that tax revenue off the sale of gasoline and diesel fuel that we won't be selling, because our roads are good. That's what fixes your roads, are the gas taxes.
Well, okay. The state won't be getting the tax money on the gasoline because less of it will be sold.
That's right.
Right? However, the rest of us who don't purchase electric vehicles and don't care to are having to pay for these charging stations, right?
Right. Well, it's in the budget, right?
So, okay, keep going.
Well, no, I'm just saying and it doesn't matter if the vehicle that you're using is what it's powered by. That's wear and tear on the road, because that's the weight of the vehicle going down the highway on the pavement that wears the road, not what is being
Well, yeah,
propelled
that's a
by.
different issue.
Right. Well, we won't have money to pay, if they don't do something about the tax structure to replace the fuel taxes, there's
Have you noticed the price of gasoline?
Yeah, I just did on the way here. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
What, almost $2.90?
$2.94
Where was that?
in Swanton. And that's, it just took, last time I looked, it was $2.84. So I was, I guess, last week. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. But again, there's the taxes that are in there are not, as the sales of gas, as the fuel drop off, we have not come up with a plan to replace that revenue to take care of the roads and the infrastructure.
Well, they keep increasing the tax.
Well, they haven't. The taxes on
Then
your
what's
fuel,
making the cost go up? The
on
fuel dealers?
Oh, that's the oil companies, or those are not taxes going up. That's because a certain pipeline was shut down.
Oh, don't get me going on the Keystone Pipeline.
And they've had, of course, in Texas, they had some bad storms this winter that interrupted the flow.
But I can't think of the multi-billionaire who owns the railroad. It starts with a B. But anyway.
Warren Buffett.
Buffett. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, they helped him because now he used to ship the oil on his trains.
That's right.
Okay. But when they put in the Keystone Pipeline, then he lost the business.
That's right.
So what did the Democrats do? They closed down the Keystone Pipeline so their donor can't get his business back.
Right.
What about the people?
Right. So that, but there's the whole situation there with the transportation. We're on the subject of gas or fuel prices. Have you spoken to anybody that's gone to price lumber lately?
Oh, I wanted to. I have a well. And right now I have a nice thing that a friend built for me years ago to cover it up and protect it, like with a roof and a siding. But it's rotting.
Yeah.
And I need something new. So I had a friend come and look at it, and he was going to maybe rebuild something for me. He said, "Linda, do you know the price of a piece of plywood today?"
Yeah, it's
unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. Car prices are skyrocketing.
They are?
Well, my wife and I both lease our cars.
You both what?
Lease our cars.
Okay.
And her lease is up this year. And there's really nothing wrong with her car. She likes her car. So she priced what a new lease would be, and it was just, I couldn't get over it. And so the dealer said, well, yeah, their prices are going up. And so she's going to buy her car from the lease. And chances are I'm going to as well, because mine will be next year. And I like my car. It's got, I only put 1,800 miles on it all winter. It's a 15,000 mile a year lease. I've had it for 2 years, and I'm just turned over 15,000 miles. I've got, it's low mileage and it runs well. So as she was on the phone with the dealer, and she let her know what was going on, and then the news is on, and they come on and talk about how high the prices of cars have come. This is all just the beginning. So the bottom line, $1 trillion here, $1 trillion there, a couple of $1 trillion there. We're going to pay for that. And my word of advice to anybody today, if you're going to buy a house and get a mortgage, you better do it now. Your interest rates are still low. Spending that level, and the federal government will have interest rates going up. Either they'll go up a little bit, I'd say by October, of this year, but by April of next year, roughly 1 year from now, I think you'll see them up.
So the same thing goes then if you're going to sell a place. Now's the time to sell it.
Well, definitely now is the time to sell it because they're still selling houses in this area sight unseen. People are buying them sight unseen.
Wow.
And in some cases getting in a bidding war. But anyways, that's neither here nor there. At this point, I'm back to what we're doing in the legislature.
Yeah, how about the military pension?
Yeah, well, that's next on my list. So
okay.
I got that under as other boondoggles. The military pensions, which we have tried, we've had bills in to exempt anybody on a military pension from paying state income tax on that pension. We have lost many people in this state who are on a military pension. They move out of state to a state that does not pay a pension.
They don't have to pay taxes on their military pension in other states.
Right.
Right.
And we even have had some former members of the legislature who are retired 20-year veteran of the Navy, and he now is technically a resident of the state of South Dakota. Well,
there are consequences for what the state does.
That's right. So this year, they in the budget, they were going to the Senate Finance put in for a $10,000 exemption on the military pension. Well, that's a start, but that's nowhere near enough. And so then there was an amendment put in to raise that to $30,000. Well, that got kicked out, and it's back to $10,000. That's an insult.
It is an insult.
First of all, the state of Vermont is the 49th out of the 50 states for state-run military programs for their veterans. We're the 49th worst state for military for veterans programs, state-run for veterans.
Programs like?
Well, the Veterans Home in Bennington.
Oh, okay.
That's state-run.
Okay.
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 We only have one, and there's certain people a few years ago that was trying to give that over to the Veterans Administration. And the thing with the Vermont Veterans Home in Bennington, very nice facility, if a veteran is in there and his or her spouse also needs a home, they can go in and stay there with them.
Oh, wow.
You wouldn't get that in a VA facility. It'd be for the veteran only. Some of the issue with the veteran home is that they unfortunately are not located where the population of veterans are.
Which makes it tough.
It makes it tough. And certainly we'd never be able to, in this, not that we shouldn't, but we certainly probably would have need for it. It would be to build a second facility in this area, Chittenden County, someplace where the population is more. But it's a very nice facility. I've been to it a couple of times. And but that's one of the problems with the military pension, and we still feel that they should get a complete exemption on that pension. Most people retire from the military. They've got their 20 or 30 years in. They're still a young man or young woman with a lot of years left in the workforce who have very good skills and certainly have a good work discipline.
Right. And it's like police. We should respect them.
Yes.
And honor them.
Yeah.
And appreciate them.
So I'm not sure. I don't know how that's going to, some people are still talking about it this year. I don't know. But
is the Senate the problem?
Well,
or is the House the problem, or both?
Well, both. One time it did pass the House, but it was the Senate was the problem.
So we need to encourage the viewers to contact the senators and the House members?
Right, I would.
About providing.
When you say the viewers, I think if they took a poll of the Franklin County delegation, most of us would probably you're preaching to the choir, pretty much, but certainly probably anybody that lives in St. Albans should contact their representatives. Because I think, well, I know one of them is probably certainly supportive of it. I don't believe the other one is.
Well, even representatives and senators from other parts of the state.
Or other parts of the state, if they've got friends or whatnot throughout the state. You can get all
that online.
It's all online, just right on the legislative website. And, certainly feel free and contact those your senators and representatives and get the word out there.
We need to do a lot more of that on a lot of issues, folks. Right. They're supposed to represent us.
So was the first boondoggle of the session. Now, the next one were charter amendments. City and town charters. All cities in the state of Vermont operate by a charter. Mm-hmm. A number of towns do, but not all towns. And most villages all have a charter. And if a town doesn't have a charter, they operate just under general state law. Whenever the charter needs to be amended for whatever reason, the voters in that community will vote on a charter change. And they, in turn, then their select board or city council have to send that charter change to the legislature to have it approved by the legislature and become state law. A city charter, or municipal charter, I should say, has the force of state law. It governs the municipality, but it has the full force of state law behind it.
Okay.
The city of Montpelier and the city of Winooski had a vote on charter changes that would allow resident aliens, in other words, non-U.S. citizens, to vote in local elections. And that charter amendment passed. And then it also came to the Senate to the House and the Senate, and it, I know that's passed the House, both of them. I'm not sure if it's passed the Senate yet.
Brian, was that a community-wide vote?
Yes, they have to be community-wide. When they take a vote, it has to be community-wide.
Well, there are a lot of people in Winooski who are not citizens.
Well, they wouldn't have been able to vote this time. But you're right. There's roughly 600 resident aliens in the city of Winooski. There's not as many in Montpelier. There may be like 10 or something that this would affect. So that was boondoggles. And I'm of the opinion that yes, these people live here and they pay taxes here. I understand that, but they're free to become a citizen. There's a process in place, and you know what? My wife was a Canadian citizen and lived in this country from the time she was 6 years old, and she did not become a citizen until 1986.
Wow.
And we would go to town meeting, and back when we had town meetings, and she'd say, sit there, and she'd say, well, I'd like to get up and tell them this. I said, well, you can't, because you're not a voter, because you're not a citizen.
That was some motivation for her to...
Well, that was. I mean, and she did it as a surprise. She did it, and she took the test and all that all on her own, went through the process, and then told me about it. She presented me the order that's issued by the court to appear in court. And
surprise.
Yeah. So anyways, that... and her father, my father-in-law, lived here from like the late 1950s. Again, he was a Canadian citizen, and my mother-in-law had passed away, but finally, a few years after that, he got his citizenship because he was very tax conscious, always, looking for a way to get around the income tax and all this. And I never understood, but he finally said, well, I'm paying taxes. I should have a say. And so I'm going to, I
Good for him.
So, so that's what you should do.
Yes.
Well, that was bad, but the next thing was, I think, worse. The town of Brattleboro operates by a charter, and they had their charter amended by a town-wide vote to allow kids, in other words, they lowered their voting age to 16 for municipal elections. 16. Again, I wanted to check to see what if the Senate had passed these bills or not, but Brattleboro being Brattleboro, it doesn't surprise me. Mm-hmm. In fact, a few years ago, this group that was looking to lower the voting age was in Montpelier. And I heard the adult with them saying that his wish was to get the voting age down to like 13 or 14.
Oh, they're not even learning civics.
Right, I know.
But one thing that comes to mind is if a student in Brattleboro or Winooski can vote these are legal residents, I presume.
Yes. Yeah.
They can vote in their community on a local issue. Does that put them on the voter checklist?
Well, they'll have a separate checklist.
A separate checklist.
Yes, yes. You have to have a separate checklist because it's just strictly for city elections.
Yeah,
right.
The vote comes around.
Well, when it's for they can't vote for their state representatives because we're not. A state representative is a state official, not a local official.
So they could vote on a school budget?
Well, there was some question there. Winooski can vote on the school budget because they're a one-town school district. It's just the city of Winooski is a self-contained school district. Okay?
Okay.
Brattleboro is not.
They're part of a supervisory union?
Right. And so in that situation, they can't, well, Montpelier is not. They're part of a unionized district. So in those situations, when it's a unionized district, they cannot vote because it's not considered a town vote. There's no, and some legislators had a problem with this, understanding it. Bottom line was Act 46 did away with town school districts. They just got extinguished. There's basically no such thing anymore for the most part in the state. So so now it's a unionized school district, so they are not able to vote there unless they're in a situation like Winooski that's just a sole district.
All right, but in Winooski, if you're 16.
No, it's still 18 in Winooski.
Oh, they did, okay.
Yeah, it's just the citizenship.
Brattleboro was 16.
Brattleboro 16.
Excuse me. Okay, so in Winooski, 18, but they have to prove that they're a legal citizen. Yes,
that is for legal non-resident alien. Yeah, which would be a green card.
No. You have to be a citizen, right, to vote?
No, a non-citizen, non-U.S. citizen. This is the charters were changed in Winooski and Montpelier for a non-U.S. citizen to be able to vote, provided that they are a legal resident alien.
What makes you a legal resident alien?
Well, my wife was before she became a citizen. What makes, that's an immigration status. Anybody who's here longer than whatever it is, 90 days, I don't know, whatever, that there is a period of time.
So you could come here illegally.
Oh,
and live here for a certain number of years and become...
No. This is when you come here legitimately, not illegally.
Under what process? What verification?
Okay. Well, let's back up. And this is a good place right here. St. Albans, in this area, the railroad. Okay, the railroad.
Yeah.
Okay. A lot of people, the old CV was owned by the CN. And a lot of people who were from here, worked in Montreal.
Canadian National Railroad.
Right, or from Montreal, they came and they worked here. They were living here. So, the same thing with IBM. That's how my father-in-law, he was working at IBM. He got hired by IBM. So, so in the course of business, you come down, and usually if you're going to work for a company, they have individuals that will assist you in that move, and they contact immigration so that you can legally work here. So you, first of all, you have to...
you have a visa? Or
yeah, you have a visa, and then you apply to immigration for your legal status change to a resident alien. And it's quite an extensive process. And then when it's approved, you get what is known as a green card, which is a photo ID, and you have to carry that with you at all times. This has been the law for many, many, many years.
Does any of this apply to the teenagers?
Yes, kids, well, my wife and her brothers came down with their parents.
In order to vote, I mean.
No, to vote.
These Winooski and Brattleboro.
Okay, well, in Winooski, in Montpelier, Montpelier and Winooski, you still have to be 18 to vote, and just like everybody else in the state. They still will have to show a green card. Young people who are the sons or daughters of the legal resident aliens have also a green card. Everybody's immigration status is checked. Mm-hmm. This is the legal way with which things should be done for everybody, but we won't go there. But
okay, well, we're in the weeds.
So that so when they go to register to vote, and that was one of the stipulations, that they had to be a legal resident alien, and that's the immigration status, and they would have to show that card. That's one way of proving that they're legal. In Brattleboro, they don't have that provision. They just have the provision that you can vote when you're 16. So I assume in Brattleboro you still have to be a U.S. citizen, but probably, they'll... but this is going to create quite a hodgepodge throughout the state. So there's that. Okay, that was the boondoggles. We also have 2 resolutions that were introduced in sitting government operations. First one is to encourage Congress to make Puerto Rico a state.
Oh, yeah.
And then the next one is to make D.C. a state.
Right. Well, they want more Democrat voters and more legislators who are Democrats, because those are both Democrat entities. The
last I knew, the people in Puerto Rico did not want to be a state because they'll have to start paying income taxes like everybody else. And in D.C., and I haven't had a chance to read it, but I'll read up on the history of that. There was a very good reason why our founding fathers had it, so that the capital city would not be in a state. So one thing that would, and that neither here nor there, the fact remains, it's not something the state of Vermont or any state should be involved with. We have elected representatives and senators in Washington. That's their job to do this.
And Washington, D.C. is the center of the national government. Right. It's not a state. So there shouldn't be any legislators from.
Right. I mean, it's just not.
Yeah, from there. So, but they're trying to change everything.
Right. And I just don't. Again, it just doesn't have. And this is not the first time we've had resolutions of this nature, sticking our nose into other states or other areas' business. And again, we have people in Washington that we have elected to supposedly represent us there. Let them do their job. Mm-hmm. And
well, they keep pushing the envelope.
That's right. The other thing that I will touch on here is time is clicking right by.
Oh yeah, time flies when you're having fun. You have a lot of topics here, so pick out the ones that.
There's been a variety of bills and different things that have gone on with our correction system. They're looking to give people good time, called earned time off for good behavior. And they exempt a number of, initially they didn't have any exemptions out of that, so everybody was eligible for it. And then they put in some emergency things in there, emergency provisions, but we did make them permanent. Obviously, if we didn't act, or if it wasn't an outcry, you would have had convicted murderers out on the street for good behavior. And
no, I don't think so.
That there was like 12 or 13 crimes listed now that they won't be able to go out. The other aspect is, and they keep chipping away at this. They are also looking at they haven't come out with it yet, but there's talk about doing away with bail. They did that in New York, and it hasn't. I don't think it's worked very well.
They do it where?
In New York.
Okay, how does that work?
Well, you get arrested for something, you're just cited to appear in court. And if you don't show up, well, so you're not jailed pending somebody making your bail or getting a bail bond.
So they want to do away with bail?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
There hasn't been a bill yet to that effect. So, yeah. Who knows?
I don't know what's going on. I must be allergic to something.
Let's see, I spoke about the PPPs. A lot of bills this year have had boards, study groups, commissions, and whatnot included in that. And some of these are 20 and 25 people in size. I think we're going overboard in that.
They're unelected people doing the business of government, and they're getting paid for it.
And it seems like every time you turn around, there's some sort of a study group or council, commission,
board.
I just
we're paying for all of it.
We are. And it's how
do we know that? What is the way that we citizens can be certain that anybody who is sitting on one of those boards or committees or commissions, whatever, getting paid by the taxpayers, that they are not someone who is pushing a cause?
Well, we don't
like
know.
Maybe they work for a company.
Right.
And they're put on this commission that the work of the commission is going to affect their company.
Because it all depends who the person is that appoints them.
Well, this should be the work of the elected people.
Right. Now, some of those, it'll say right in the bill, the Speaker of the House shall select 3 people, the president pro tem of the Senate will be 3 people, governor's office, 3 people, you know, things of that nature. So it's up to those to kind of review the individual's knowledge and experience. Now, I say this, and there are some standing, there are a lot of government commissions and advisory councils, and I sit on 2 of them.
Have we always had these?
Oh, for years. Yeah.
Okay, well.
Liquor control. Well, it's liquor and lottery control now. Yep. And now you got cannabis, the Cannabis Control Board.
Goody.
I'm on the Vermont Rail Council, and I'm the legislative representative to that, and the Vermont, I haven't gotten the appointment yet.
Yeah, but you're a legislator.
Right.
That's
I'm
different.
I'm the legislative
representative
part on that, but I'm the only legislator on the Rail Council, and I'm also have an appointment pending to also be on the Aviation Council for the airports, and I haven't got the appointment yet, but it's in the I guess in the works, but whatever.
Because of the new airport going in Swanton?
Well, it's not
Highgate?
new. They're just improving it.
Okay.
Yeah, they're improving it. But no, Barbara Murphy was on. It's usually somebody who sits on the Transportation Committee. Barbara was on the Transportation.
That makes sense.
And she's not on the Transportation. And then I was approached by the Transportation Agency if I would be interested, because the Transportation Agency oversees. They have the Rail Council, but they have the Rail Council to handle the railroad. But the railroad function of the Transportation Agency, the Vermont Rail System, is now merged with the aviation. The same person is in charge of both rail and air. So I said I would, and so we haven't. Heard anything yet, but in any case,
we'll see what happens, huh?
Right. So in full disclosure, I'm part of 2 committees, but you're right. I'm on the legislature. I'm in the legislature. So
yeah.
And I have no conflict of interest with either one of those.
Good.
Yeah. I don't work for the railroads, and I don't own an airplane. So
Now,
I have trouble driving a car sometimes.
Oh, we can all use a good laugh, right?
Yeah.
Especially these days. Well, you have some other topics here.
Yeah, I just talk a few minutes about reopening Vermont after this pandemic. It's been a tough going on a year.
It's a great idea.
And it feels good already a little bit. I mean, a month or so ago, I was able to attend a meeting in person where everybody there was vaccinated except for one person. So we were able to meet with our mask off and talk. And so that was refreshing. So the governor has indicated that on or about July 1st or July 4th in there someplace, that if we continue on the path that we're on, he said it in his press conference last week that, and I didn't get to watch it today, that probably will be lifting all the guidelines and whatnot, and would be trying to get back to normal as much as possible, and things can open up. But for some reason, let's see, when this was all done, the governor, you have the 3 branches of government. And so when the governor put the state of emergency into effect, it was brought to our attention. I didn't think about it, but that state of emergency did not apply to the legislature or to the court system, because we're 3 separate branches of government. So we passed some emergency resolutions that put into place such things as remote voting that we're doing on the House and whatnot, and emergency rules, and that's all fine. And then we've had to keep extending those as we've been going along. just as the governor has been extending, and then the court system has done what they've done, very similar. So there's, as we're winding down on this, there was a resolution introduced. It's a joint resolution for the House and Senate, JRS 24, which basically calls that the state of emergency of the legislature shall end either on the same time that the governor lists the state of emergency for the state, or January 7th, 2022, whichever is later. Now, January 7th, 2022, I didn't look at the calendar, but I think that's when the next session of the legislature will start. Oh, no, it's next year. It's the next session. Year. It's the next session starts. So, well, I have a problem with that. If everybody else is opening up, why are we not going to be? Now, we probably won't be in session. However, a number of these committees that do meet, joint meetings and whatnot through the course of the fall and the winter, would have to meet remotely. And, or to put it in another way, I just said that I was on these two councils, okay? They are under the executive branch, and so that's lifted. So I could go to Montpelier and go to their meetings in person. Okay. But if there was a legislative committee that I had to go to, or not supposed to go in person, I have to do it from home. So it's I don't know where that's coming. You know, how come that's that way? I think, but I know it's created quite a stir. A stir. We're sick of being on Zoom, quite honestly.
Listen. I'm sure that most of the people watching tonight are sick and tired of all of these restrictions. You know, we want to get back to living.
Right, exactly.
And seeing our friends and family and coworkers and so forth. So I have down here recovery and reopening. State emergency, I wrote down.
Yeah, well, the state of emergency is what the governor put this, declared, and now.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. I haven't been watching that. So, you know, there's been some criticism of the, of the governor, and which I will say, nobody liked the state of emergency, but we had only over a couple of hundred deaths. And if he didn't do what he had to do, and we say had several thousand, and the original estimate was like 3,000. Yeah. Who would they have blamed? I know. The government.
The government, yeah. So, you know, it's we've gotten through it.
Okay. One last thing. Yeah. You said 17 million a month?
Oh, yeah, the pension fund.
That's the pension fund is teachers and health. No, state workers.
State employees and teachers, municipal employees, and the state police. Those are the four pension funds. The biggest problems are in the teachers fund and the state employees funds. The municipal employees and the state police are not as in bad a shape. But
are they separate? Or
yes, they're four separate.
Four separate funds. Four separate funds. Oh, yes. Okay, I didn't realize that. But you're saying it's costing 17 million a month?
It's bleeding 17 million a month. In other words, it's basically losing. The situation is getting worse by $17 million a month, and we're at
something has to be done.
5.5 billion or whatever it is total, where you got a deficit.
Somebody has to figure out a way.
Absolutely.
To fix that problem.
Right.
Whatever the solution might be.
It's not going to be an easy solution. I don't have a solution certainly for it. We've got ideas.
I don't either.
You know, you know, a lot of people will say, well, how did this get started? Well, I could tell you that in another program. I don't think I have time.
Well, I'm sure I'll have you on again if you'll come. We're down to the last half minute.
Yeah.
So this has been most informative. I've certainly learned a lot. I hope the viewers have as well. And I just can't believe how much you know and how you can keep track of all of this, because there are so many different facets, so many different items here. But we're down to where I have to say thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
I hope to see you soon. Stay well. Happy Mother's Day, Moms.
Yes,
I'll
happy
see you
Mother's
again
Day.
next week. Good night.